Open us up in prayer, please.
Is it live now?
Well, yeah, no, I did hit record.
Just had to check. Jesus, thank you just for class. Father, thank you that we have the opportunity to come and get wisdom from Pastor David and just learn the art of communication. Thank you for the students in this classroom and online, and thank you that tonight's going to go super well. In Jesus' name,
Amen. Awesome. So, just want to say really quick to Nikki, please text me right now whatever your favorite ice cream is. I'm not going to get it for you. I just want to make sure that you're watching this. And I'm going to continue stuff like this. If I don't get every answer to every question, then you failed tonight in the class. So, I'm Pastor David. I am the adult pastor. I do the Avenue Worship Center. I've been a pastor for 10 years. I've been a communicator for about 13 years, maybe 15 years. I don't even really know what the starting point is on that, to be honest with you. Love what I do. I pastor over the apprenticeship program of the young adults here at the church, the college ministry leadership program that we have. Spent 10 years within the youth as well. Formed what was an internship program. See a lot of our young church leaders out of that. So I've got a good amount of experience. And I really like people with a good amount of experience over a whole lot of people with a whole lot of experience, because I find that when you go to get wisdom from people that are like, and this is not like I'm painting with a broad brush here, all right? Like when I talk to like my dad, who's like 68, I'm like, Dad, what about this? What about that? He's like, it'll all work out. You know what I mean? But you talk to somebody, for instance, I'm married, I have 4 kids. I ask, Dad, what do I do about that? He's like, you'll be fine. It'll work out. I'm 40. I talk to somebody that's 50. They're like, look, this is how it is. You're going to be okay. Been there. You're finally going to start sleeping once that littlest one is potty trained and is a little more independent. Life will swing in a different direction. You'll be happy. So that's why I always joke around and say I always like a good amount of experience over a great amount of experience. So I feel like I'm still in the good amount of experience. I enjoy communicating a ton. It's super my passion. All right. The only thing I love more than communicating is leadership. It's training up young leaders and seeing them do their thing. I get more excited, actually, believe it or not, I get more excited to see someone I love preach or communicate than I do to preach myself. Because I believe, we're talking here, the art of communication, such a properly named class. I have just a few things about the class here, and then we're going to talk about you guys for a moment. Some things about the class: you're going to have to communicate in the class. You're going to have to preach a 10-minute message. By the time you have to preach a 10-minute message, you'll have communicated from the front, or at least from your chair, several times. So that should be good. It won't be like the first time up there. Some cons, some negative things. I don't care about your personality type. Doesn't matter to me. All right, like I'm an introvert. I don't care. Like you in the class, you gotta do it. You know what I mean? Or I'm shy. I don't care. You in the class, you gotta do it. You know, it's like I'm an extrovert. Like librarians hate me. They don't care about my personality. It isn't like there's a section of the library for extroverts, like we can go and talk and be loud. No, you know. So the whole art of this and the whole concept behind this is communicating. But what we will do is show you how to leverage how God has made you to influence in the direction we're looking to go. I have read the book, and I probably read the book Communicating for Change by Andy Stanley that you guys have. I probably read it once a year. It's probably one of the ones I read once a year to a year and a half. I make sure I pick it back up and go back through it. This is my model of preaching. And just so you know that your model of preaching will evolve from this model. It will not stay the same. All right. Mine has adapted to my personality and what I feel comfortable with and what my soul resonates with. I don't like to sit here, believe it or not, and talk for long amounts of times. So if you guys have questions at any point, raise your hand, but don't wait till the end of class. Definitely don't wait for a break. Like, Like, we're definitely going to joke around on break, but we'll ask questions here in the moment. Everything's probably relevant. Everything's probably can be processed and used to something productive. When it comes to your sermon, highly looking at that. When it comes to your sermon notes, you're going to be graded on those as well. There's also a quiz that you'll be taking online. So what I want to encourage you is, how do I say this correctly so I don't get in trouble in the recording? I don't care as much about the quiz. Like, I really don't. I care that you learn how to communicate. Like, I don't care what you get for a grade. I care that you truly learn and grasp the concept of what it means to influence in a Christ-centered direction. And if we can do that over the next couple of weeks, I will consider this a win. And you'll have to demonstrate that. All right, you'll have to demonstrate that. So we have some really good stuff. I've been all through the slides. I've modified a ton of these slides too to actually fit. I actually think you guys need to know too, which makes me feel really good because Pastor Matt wrote these notes, and I was just texting him and saying, I like this better, I like that better. And he's like, I'm coughing, leave me alone. So it's always good to approach what you're going to do with a sense of joy and a sense of peace. And so before we get into the first slide here, which we're actually probably several slides into this, moving back here is, I'll just share a quick story with you real quick. And then we'll all go around and we'll say our names and we'll introduce ourselves to the class. But so it was probably about 1990, 1989, Titusville, Florida. Anybody here from Titusville, Florida? All right. So one of my most impacting memories, I was probably about 9 years old, maybe 10 years old, on a street called Barna. When you go up on it, there's this big cow pasture, and we'd go out there to play as kids. It was about a mile and a half from my house. And my brother's 2 years older than me, so his friends were just older and just bigger than me to always beat me up, but I was old enough to hang with them still, So they're like, let's go out in this cow pasture and go cow tipping. And I thought this was a good idea at 10. And so I was a little fat kid. I was about that tall and probably about that round as well, And so we're going out there and we're pushing these cows over, and they're mooing and whatever, we're stepping in cow patties, and then we're doing our thing, and all of a sudden my brother looks over at me and really he pats me and I'm like, what? He goes, change jackets with me. Because at Christmas, my mom got me a blue jacket and got him a red jacket. And I was like, why? He's like, I don't like this one. Change it with me. Switch up. I want your jacket. So I was like, all right, cool. Whatever your older brother has, you want. So I get to wear the red jacket. So I throw the red jacket on. And then we go walking through. We go to push another cow over. And then I hear Kevin Watkins go, guys! And then I just hear the 3 letters that every fat kid dreads. Run! And I look over, and here's this bull that is fully standing up. Now, having fully surrendered my blue jacket, and fully is now wearing the red jacket, had no cognitive thought to button the thing up. So as I turned to do my expedient waddle away, this jacket is now flapping in this breeze. And my brother and his friends, being much older than me, were beelining for the barbed wire fence, and they make it over, and they are looking at me as I look at them running with all my might to get to that barbed wire fence. And it's like, how when you can feel your back getting hit before it gets hit, like when someone's going to throw a tennis ball at you, I feel the bull impaling me in some region that won't be good. And they're like, run! And then you see their faces, jump! So right when I get to that fence, I jump with everything I have to try and dive between the barbed wire. And being an authentic fat kid, it was like trying to throw a marshmallow through a spatula. It was the worst case scenario. I hit that barbed wire. I was hung up all over it. They grabbed me. They pulled me out. Oh my gosh, I made it. I made it. I made it. And then what happened? You hear everybody start laughing. Everybody starts laughing. I get up and I look. The bull had never moved. It stayed still. But when they saw me taking off running for all my might, they were like, let's make them think the bull's behind them. And I never forget that. I never once turned back around in my running to see if the bull actually took off after me. Right? Yay, Titusville. That's the power of a story. So many biblical concepts I could put into that. Fear, influence, accountability, Titusville socks, any of those work. All of them work right there. All of them work right there. You know what I mean? So that's the power of communication. And we'll talk about this later. It's the power of a story. That's a good example about how now, if you were new to the church or to the business meeting or to the sales pitch or to whatever you're walking into, you've now, as long as you do what we're going to look at through here, and a lot of stuff's going to become repetitive because I like to point out what happens, as long as you're authentic. So I was authentic. I didn't make the story up. I didn't be like, what's a ridiculous story that I could open up class with and have to write something. Because you can feel a fake lie. You can feel that. You can feel that people say that. And you're like, all right, whatever. You know, that's a true story, actually. And so when we communicate, when you talk, when you share, you'd be surprised how much of your story is actually super relevant and usable and better than tons and tons and hours of research. You know, it's great what the Greek and Hebrew says. I love it. That's fine. But man, finding the right connective story, finding the right, setting the right temperature inside the room. Like your story, you're communicating the art of communication. The art of this is really, what are you displaying from the temperature of the room to how the person is feeling, is all done by how you communicate. So we'll take a moment now off of that note, and you guys just take a moment and just say who you are and your favorite movie, like your name and your favorite movie, and let's see, your favorite food. It is. I feel like Mexican, always some form of Mexican always hits the table. Like, anybody want to go first? Luke, you go first.
My name is Luke. I've been addicted for, sorry, wrong meeting.
Hi!
The first question was, favorite movie? Talladega Nights, hands down.
Oh my goodness.
I don't watch movies over and over again, but that movie I just don't get sick of. And then favorite food? Have you guys ever been to Cheddar's?
Yes.
Monte Cristo?
Yes.
That's a good one. It's like a sandwich, but it's fried.
It's a heart attack ham sandwich.
Yeah, it's like ham, cheese, and pumpkin.
It's like a grilled cheese ham sandwich that's deep fried.
Yeah. And then it has like raspberry or something jam. Fire.
Who's next?
I just don't know my favorite.
We're not talking to you. Tracy, you go first.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tracy Reiner.
Hi, Tracy.
I like all food. I don't discriminate, so anything is awesome. I guess hamburgers is my favorite thing, or any kind of like Italian or Irish food. Favorite movie? That's so hard because I like a lot of things. So I will say I like I don't know. I'd say the Avengers movies. I just
Good call.
love
You're in good
the-
company.
Yeah, it's just hard to pick, but I think Black Panther.
Who's got extra credit?
Yeah, you just passed the class. All right. Anybody but Aaron.
I'm Kim. I'm like Tracy. I have no favorites of food as long as it's on the table. I will eat it. And then as far as movies go, I love movies. Mona Lisa's Smile is probably one of my favorites, just from the art side of it. I love the message of that movie. And then Beauty and the Beast.
Live or
Not the
cartoon?
real life, but the animated
cartoon?
one.
Yeah.
Because that artistically is just phenomenal to me. The
That is-
chandelier, that scene.
It is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
My name is Nick.
Hi, Nick.
You look like my roommate. Weird.
Whenever I watch movies, I don't ever know what to watch, and then I don't know watching a movie because I can't decide, so I can't exactly pick a favorite movie. I'd say I have a favorite cuisine, which would be like Asian food. But if I was more specific, I'd say like pad thai.
Wait, what was the first one? Your tone made me totally dip out. What was it? What was your first food?
Oh well, cuisine is Asian food.
I feel like. No, that's not a true statement. I don't feel like that. Never mind. Awesome. Okay.
Okay, my name is Erin. Hi. My favorite food, I think, I don't have a favorite, but the food that I can eat, like, for the rest of my life and not get tired is probably sushi and Cheerios.
Together?
No, not together, separately. And I think my favorite movie, I love the Harry Potter series. It's my favorite book, so the movie kind of translates the same way. But also, I think Top Gun might be my favorite movie.
Old Top Gun, new
Old
Top Gun.
Top Gun.
I'm scared about the sequel, to be honest with you.
I'm not.
I am because like
Oh, I changed my mind. I still love Top Gun, but I think The Dark Knight is my favorite.
that's a good one. It used to be for me, like, my name's David. My favorite food is nachos just because they're very diverse. Sushi is a close second, though. But definitely used to be growing up, used to be Return of the Jedi, but definitely Avengers Endgame has given it a solid run for its money, if not beaten it. So
That's just a commitment of a movie. That thing is so long.
Yeah.
that's called good storytelling. All right, that's what that's called. It's called 10 years, 22 movies. We finally get to it, and they're doing it again, and it's going to be with Galactus. And I'm actually going to post a TikTok right now, and it's actually part of the class. Dead serious.
You mean Tic Tac?
My TikTok. Yes. First slide here. Our model, Jesus, the master preacher. All right, first slide here. You guys got it on your notes there. And why is he the master preacher? Simple. This goes into your DNA of who you are. Because he's the king. You could say, because he knows scripture really well. Well, no. It's because he's the king. And every good king, as we know, every good and perfect thing comes from the Father of lights, which we have a good king, wants what's best for his people. And so to do that, you have to lead them. And to lead them, you have to communicate. You have to. All right? Communication is definitely an art form that is frustrating because it is two things that are super anti-American. It is repetitive and it can be slow. You say it once and you say it quick, don't think everybody got it. All right? Especially if you're preaching a message. You say it once, you say it quick, and that was your thesis statement. Don't be surprised if they leave that worship service and someone's like, what was that message? Or if you ask somebody. And this is, I'll tell you right now, and the apprentices know this, right now, bottom line up front, part of when you get critiqued, and we're going to have some fun tonight, and some people are going to do some talking, and it's going to be one sentence, what was your point? And you don't get to answer it. Somebody else does. What was Tracy talking about? Oh, she was talking about how, kayaking is so much fun in the Banana River. And you're like, actually, I was talking about the importance of the tithe. It's like, we missed that one. And you would be surprised. You'd be surprised how many preachers go into a message with 5 points, but they're not saying anything. And what they're actually doing is overloading. We live actually in a culture of communication. All the neuroscientists will tell you this. Look at Dr. Leaf. She tells you that we are inundated with information to an overflow. All right. So for us to slow down a message and be repetitive is counterintuitive to how our brains are trained. But if you do it properly, you're actually 100 times more effective than if you're sporadic and all over the place. There's some people that tell me your preaching style, you need to change or do something every 5 to 7 minutes. And I agree-ish. I don't think you need to explode confetti and throw a water balloon and jump on, all things that have happened in Mez in the last 3 weeks. But be all crazy. I don't think you need to have some cheap gimmick like a used car salesman. I don't believe any of that. Believe it or not, I actually believe, as much of a showman as I am, as much as I enjoy thorough entertainment and I enjoy the actual art of storytelling, that I actually believe the gospel is enough. That you don't have to have the additives to be effective. But what's guaranteed is if you don't have the gospel, you are not effective. So, because he's a king is because he's a leader and he's taking the people somewhere. Taking the people somewhere. He uses, like it says up there, discerning illustrations. He often uses visual aids and demonstrations. He always delivers a timeless message relevant to every generation. And I want to point this out, is that Matthew 13 verses 1 through 9, he gives the parable of the sower. All right? He gives the parable of the sower, and he could have done this 2 ways. He could have communicated this 2 ways. He could have walked up, and he could have said, all right, my word, you know what? When it hits people's hearts and minds, some of you are going to get eaten alive by the devil. And some of you are going to just kind of waste this away. But some of you are actually people that I want to talk to, and it's going to sink in. And I'm really going to like that. So will all my good people just kind of follow me, and all the rest of you guys just kind of, you're free to do your own thing? People would be like, what? Like, is he, like, when he goes up there, it's like, I need to get this in a way that they'll have to process it. And it'll sink into their hearts. And he's like, I'm going to say a way they can relate to this. And he gets the story into their heads and then into their hearts, where they internalize it about themselves instead of being externally told what they should do or who they are. That's a lot of communicators, or some communicators will do that. They spend most of their time working on the external when you really want to be inspiring the internal and having the ownership come from the person. And that's why he'll pull them aside later. Actually, they'll pull him aside and say, man, that was a dope parable, Jesus. But what were you talking about? We didn't get it. He will say, it's simple. The seed is my word. Your heart. And they're like, and you really want that for people. You don't necessarily want, after your message, for someone to pull you aside and say, we don't know what you're talking about. But that would be a con. But you want people internalizing and processing what you're saying. That's why faster is not always better. Slower, story form is very good. And his word was backed by his actions. And before we go too far, that is something that I really want to encourage with everybody, is that you cannot be one person off the platform and another person on the platform. And I take this so seriously. We talked about it in our meeting today, the apprenticeship, is that I do my very best to be the man that I am at home with my wife and kids as I am right here. Like, my wife could literally be sitting right there and she'll say, this is how he acts at home, And then when I hit the platform, I don't have to change, Authenticity is huge, all right? Because when the Lord starts inspiring you and directing you, and you are leading people, and you have to say something, there's nothing harder to say, believe it or not, than something you don't believe. It's super hard. It should be. Or you're a liar, and you're good at being a liar. Like, you want to be authentic. You want to be able to be like, nope. So his words backed his actions. Does that mean you have to be perfect? Absolutely not. But You cannot be living a double life internally. You cannot be living a double life. Have people done it? Has there big scandals with preachers? Absolutely, there has. There totally has. And that's super sad, but really the super sad thing is the effect that it had on those congregations that believed in those communicators that actually now had their faiths rocked, let alone the families of the communicators that happens. But another thing is, with his words backed his actions, is there's some communicating triggers that people say that always I'm like, you probably don't want to say that. Like, I don't know if I would use that type of vernacular when I was talking. One things to avoid when possible, this is one of the things I sent to Matt, said, should have put this in your notes. Things to avoid is anything that separates you from the context of what you're trying to lead the people to do. So it's like this: I don't do this, tithing, I don't do this, but I really think you guys should. Well, there's a bit of a disconnect right there. Innately, I'm like, well, then why am I going to do it if you don't do it? I won't be there, but you guys should really go and serve at Family Fun Night. What? These are all things that aren't deal breakers, but they're deflating. And if you tell the speaker, why'd you say that? They're like, I'm just being honest with everybody. Well, you're being honest, but when you communicate, you want to be strategic. Right? I was strategic about what I said. I was strategic that I knew that I would lose the tension of my Titusville story if I told you I never looked behind me. I was strategic to leave out that the bull never moved. I did not mention those facts because it would break the tension of what I was doing. And I didn't want to break the tension. I wanted to keep the tension on the intensity of the run and the fear of what would happen. So you want to keep the focus on what you want to accomplish. You want people to serve at Family Fun Night. So don't tell everybody you're going to be on vacation. This happens to us as pastors all the time. You know, there's 10 of us on staff. Like, we're not going to be at every single event. I'm not going to be at the foster care outreach. All right? Like, but that doesn't mean I'm omitted from giving the foster care announcement or talking about the event or talking about what we have to do. And even though it seems small and it's not a sermon, it's still super important that you are intentional about how you communicate. And then this is more for maybe a sermon or a board meeting, or you're pitching something, you're selling something, you're giving a presentation. Some people say, and it doesn't correlate with your thesis or what you're trying to accomplish. Well, stay away from that. It sounds like you're just regurgitating. You know, you really need to be the humble expert in the room. You don't have to be the expert on everything. You don't have to be a guru. You don't have to be something like that. But if you're going to try and get those people to tithe, so to say, then you need to believe in the tithe and be confident and be able to speak into it about what you're doing. You can't say, well, some people say that, you know, God will open up heaven, the windows of heaven, you know, if you guys start tithing and doing stuff. See how that just feels weird? You know, some people say that, you know, you'll be blessed. It just feels weird. It feels weird. You know, if you're going to give a point of authority, you need to realize that this is the perfect scenario. I am the only one in the room facing the wrong way. Somehow in America and other places across the planet, the one guy facing the wrong way has been deemed the point of authority in the room. Right? Don't give up what you've been given by the crowd to take them somewhere. So tell them that. Say, when you tithe, you've sown seed, and generosity is going to come back in the form of a harvest. You don't deflate where you stand. You don't, I heard, you don't make it secondhand. You have to have, it'd be like watching a football game. There's going to be a lot of football analogies in the next couple of weeks.
Dang it, I hate
if every time the ball was hiked, if the quarterback ran back all scared and handed the ball to somebody else and hoped they threw the ball down the field. Like, what do we need that other guy for? Just hand it to that guy. You know, that's what it's like when you keep using sub sources. I'm not saying you can't cite stuff, but you want to definitely maintain yourself as a firm part of authority. Jesus' sources and goals is really good. He waited for his father's approval. I'm going to read all these. I'm going to go back and touch on them. He ministered from a standpoint of love and compassion. He wanted to bring reconciliation between God and the people. He always knew where he was headed, and he took the people to a point of decision. So he waited for his Father's approval. This is probably one of the most underrated lines in all of the slides. Let's say you're going to communicate and you're pastoring a church, or you're going to go and the pastor comes to you and says, hey, I want you to preach on something, speak on something on a Sunday morning. A handful of people just got that phone call today for a couple of weeks from now. And a lot of people might gravitate towards what's the coolest Stephen Furtick or Bethel or Michael Todd sermon they just heard, and just preach that. This is fine, whatever. You know, do your thing. Or they might be like, I know what I want to talk about. A bunch of marriages are in trouble, so I'm going to preach on marriage. Okay. You know, I get it. I get where you're coming from. But the best thing to do is to get alone and to humble yourself and to literally even get on your face and say, Father, what do you want to say to your family? I know Sally and Johnny's marriage is on the rocks, and so is Stacy and Jim's. Oh, and they're texting you, and it's always in the forefront of your mind. You know, and I know Stephen Furtick just preached that awesome message, and you were like, wow, I'm going to tweet like 8,000. Who tweets? I'm going to post it on Instagram. You know, no, that's not the way it works. Get alone and ask, and be patient and listen. All right? Jesus went alone before the rest of the people got up, and he got the vision from his Father. You might not get it in that morning. Often I do not get it morning of asking. Often I do not get it. I'm like, Lord, what do you want me to preach on next? I don't always get that. I might be finishing up a run. Matter of fact, I run every Monday morning. I hate running. Running is stupid. I am 200 pounds. What am I running from? This is stupid.
Not a bull.
Not a bull, for sure. You know, not that far of that again. But it gets the emotion from the day out of me, the emotion from the night out of me. It gets me to a point. I mean, I'll go like 4 miles, and then I'll come back home, and then I'll sit down, and I'll start praying. And I'll say, all right, all of the working on that project, working on this project, what I got to do about my kids, and this and that, and when am I going to be able to spend time with my wife? All of that is drained. I ran that all out on the run. And now I'm just listening. I'm like, Dad, what do you want me to do? And really from that authentic moment is he'll give you a word. And he's not going to give you your 5 points, you know, to your message. He'll often give you the what, but he doesn't really often give you the how. All right? We want the how. The how's tough. The what? Not so tough. You know what I mean? Go to Toledo. How though? Train, plane, walk, car, horse. How, God? Which way are you blessing? All right? And as a communicator, you have to have the confidence when you go to communicate that you're going to be communicating your Father's word and intention. Does anybody have a good idea on how you can always get that right? Like 100% of the time. I put such a loaded tension on this question.
Biblically.
Yes.
Good
He
answer.
wrote it. It is. It is. His word will not return void. Everybody's waiting for stardust from the sky and confirmation from baby angels. Why? He wrote it down right there. You know, even if you mess up, his word will not return void. He had already said it at one point. He might have said it to Isaiah, or he might have said it to Peter, but he said it. All right, and we grab hold of it and we go with it. And that is the danger of re-preaching sometimes. That is the danger of stepping out on your own sometimes, just like not getting foundational in the word on what you're going to say and what you're going to do. He ministered from a standpoint of love and compassion. Yes, kind of. Either the end goal was love and compassion, or he dealt with it with love and compassion. I would not define the incident with the temple tables, where he actually does that twice, totally loving and compassionate. I think the end goal was love and compassion, because the person that was being separated from God, being separated from the sacrifice, would now be able to have a sacrifice and be closer to God again. So it is love and compassion. But the executable means was not love and compassion. He wanted to bring reconciliation between God and the people. Everything he did, 2 things he talked about the most in his 3.5 years walking this earth. One was the gospel of the kingdom. Repent, for the kingdom is at hand. And you hear John the Baptist say that. And the next thing we talk about, that we talked about once again today, is materialism, or what materially, money-wise, would take over your heart. But he always wanted to let you know that the kingdom of heaven is here for you. He is the kingdom of heaven. He is the perfect sacrifice. And it's right there in front of you. All you have to do is repent from who you are. And to put it super simple, and this will help you in your communicating, he knew what he was there to do. He was going, and now watch this. He was going to atone the sins of all mankind. And Emmanuel, peace on earth, goodwill towards men. He was going to bring peace between the father and the children. He was going to reconcile a nation. However you want to look at it, he was going to become the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, return to the New Jerusalem on Mount Zion. He was going to bring back the cool of the day, walk in the garden. That is what he was doing. And it's like, we get distracted sometimes by what we're going in there to do. This Sunday at Mez, I'm talking about finances. So when I hear something great from Michael Todd about purity, it doesn't hit my notes, because I'm going to talk about finances. And some people will be like, Pastor, what about the Holy Spirit? You are quenching the Holy Spirit. You are not being led by the Spirit. And I want to grab that person and punch them right in their face. What do you think I'm doing all week? I'm praying in the Spirit. I'm listening to what God has to say. It's like I'm like, hey, Holy Spirit, you got a second? Hold on a minute. Let me go write a message and then get back to you before I preach it. No. Now I will tell you guys later, I only write 75% of a message. You write 100% of a message, it's not going to be a great message. Only write 75%. Okay? Because it does give you room to be flexible and move with the Spirit. And it gives you healthy room to move in the Spirit. But it gives you the parameters that you don't screw it up that bad. That you don't get up there and see Nick, eyes rolling back. You don't know if he's going into a seizure or falling asleep because it's 8:15, big drool hanging down. And you're like, I'm up here preaching my guts out, and the kid's in a chocolate coma over there. You know what I mean? Like, and all of a sudden you're all upset, or X, Y, and Z happens, and you look over, and the new person you're so excited to win to Jesus gets up and walks out and doesn't come back in. That throws you out of your pocket because you're human, but your notes will keep you enough on track. And then let me see if I can finish this slide before we go on break. He knew where he was and where he was headed to, and he'd take the people to a point. He always knew where he was headed, and took the people to a point of decision. And that's something too. At the end of when you communicate, you need to be able to have taken the people somewhere. And you'll read that in your book. The whole first half of that book, 3/4 of that book, is simply a story about a trucker and a guy going on a ride with the trucker. And very Andy Stanley-esque. Actually, irony. I'm actually re-preaching an Andy Stanley message Sunday night, and you guys are doing the book. Homiletics is the art and science of preaching. Art equals style. It's your personality, your voice, your delivery. And science is the structure. It's a gift to the church and a calling of God. It absolutely is a calling, and I will say this really quickly. I actually wrote this. The worst is when the content is good, but the delivery is awful. I've heard so many preachers, and I feel like all of them have Velcro shoes, where it's like, the content is amazing, and I cannot, I'm like, you're fighting to stay awake, where you're like holding your breath, so your adrenaline can kick in because your body thinks it's going to die, so you can just stay awake and make it through the message, like that. But I'm like, the content is so good, but the person's so brutally boring that it's like not even your love for Jesus can keep you passionate in the message, and it's like that honestly breaks my heart. I'm like, man, and it's like, so we're about to go on break here. It's about to be 7:45. All right, so by this clock, I've got 2 minutes. I'll open up. Is there any questions anybody has? What we talked about last 45 minutes that maybe are in your head? A strong waddle. A strong waddle. Enough for all of the other kids to get through the barbed wire fence, turn around, and communicate to each other. It would be funny to keep me waddling. To be like, no, don't tell the bull's not coming. Keep them going.
I want to know if you got a text about the ice cream.
Not yet. She's not watching virtually. She's in Jacksonville right now. She'll come watch us start 3. She actually is the mezzanine administrator, so it's like, did I threaten to no, we need to threaten to fire her next class. Yes. So it's 7:45, 44, whatever. Let's stretch our legs out. Do you guys want to do that thing where we just push through and then end early? Who are we kidding? We're ending early no matter what. I will never go to 10 o'clock. Yes. I am never going the whole way. Like, we'll have fun, we'll get the point across, we'll have some more fun, and we'll go home. That'll be our template. So, cool. Awesome. Let's stretch our legs. We'll go to the next deal.
All I can think about is that we're not recording, right? I don't want my audio.
Totally recording, actually.